All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We're here for the March Project Governing Board session of the Open Cybersecurity Alliance. Thanks everyone for taking the time today. I know it's an extremely busy time for everybody here in the call, so very much appreciate the time spent getting together, trying to go over some pretty important agenda items we have to cover this month. I was mentioning just before we started the recording there, some of these topics, and I did get a couple of regrets sent in advance for some PGB members. So I think we'll try to advance some of these today, but I think we might discuss trying to do another meeting in March, maybe 2 weeks out, just to see if we can get some more people together and make some more progress. I do think I'm going to also try to do an individual reach out to some PGB members who haven't been able to attend for the past couple of months, just to see if there's something we can do as far as scheduling, or are they not getting the emails? I know we've been seeing some issues with some spam filtering systems at some companies. So just trying to get a handle on how to increase a little bit of that engagement to basically progress some of these items a little bit faster. With that, and related to that, going on to the first agenda item here, which is the co-chair ballot. So unfortunately, the co-chair ballot that we had didn't pass because it didn't reach a quorum. So essentially what that means is we didn't get enough votes on the ballot to push it over the top. Unfortunately, the nomination of a chair or co-chair of an OASIS Open project requires a majority, and we got a clear majority of the people who voted, but we didn't get a majority of the PGB members because we didn't get enough people to vote on the ballot. So that just goes to my comment a minute ago. Going to make sure we take some dedicated cycles over the next week to do individual reach outs to several members who we haven't seen, and make sure that they're getting the emails. What can we do to increase their awareness? Should somebody else in their organization be appointed? Have those kinds of conversations. So that's something that I'm going to be taking on this week, working with OASIS, obviously, to try to do that reach out. So any questions or comments on that first agenda item? Obviously, I think, still very much looking to get a co-chair nominated and passed. As much as I love this org, it is a lot of work for one person, and we also have the bus factor at play here. So I think we definitely want to have a second co-chair in the organization. So I'm gonna try to see what we can do to try to get a ballot that'll pass, essentially. Any questions, comments there before we move on?
Yeah, this is Duncan with just comment. I mean, we're all busy. It's a volunteer effort. I understand why people don't get to it. I do think, though, there is a expectation of, even if you don't attend meetings, at least you'll vote when you're a member. It is a pay-to-play organization, so we can't, unlike the technical committees, which basically can kick people off if they don't show up. We can't really kick people off because this is the governing board and people or current organizations are paying. So, but I do think we could ask for OASIS's help on a ballot like this. I mean, I think we probably should put it out again, and you just got to call everybody who hasn't voted and say, hey, go vote. And if you're not going to vote, then your company should get somebody else to, be your representative. And again, it might just be a vacation or something came up or something. But if it's there's enough people that didn't do it, it's probably just, hey, they were too busy. And again, it's hard when you're volunteering, but I do think you should do something, and maybe OASIS could help a little with that.
Over. Yeah, I agree, Duncan. I suspect there's a number of issues at play. I do strongly suspect there's still some technical issues at play here as well. Like, I know Mark can attest that, their email system initially we had to jump through a bunch of hoops to get them not spammed. And there's a bunch of, I have a strong suspicion that there are still people who are just not getting any of the emails. So we're going to try to troubleshoot that. Like I said, do some direct reach outs. I'm going to work with Chet, try to figure that out. But yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you said. Any other thoughts, comments on that? All right. The next agenda item is I just wanted to call to attention of the PGB itself the fact that we did get our solution brief over the finish line. Hopefully everybody saw that. It's a great artifact, I think. I think it's something we can be proud of. Again, it's an evolving document, so let's not think that it's in some kind of state that we can't continue to improve and change. But the fact that we have one now, should help greatly when we're having conversations with people who are trying to understand what the OCA is all about. I've remarked to people a number of times. I've been on phone calls with clients of ours, as well as, just on recruitment calls related to OCA, and people have asked for this kind of document. This information is great. Can you send me something I can read over, get back to you? And now we have that artifact. So if you haven't taken a look at that, please take a few minutes sometime this week to do that. It's on the mailing list. It's been posted both to the PGB list as well as the marketing subcommittee list. I do think that the marketing committee is trying to take an action to try to figure out how to best leverage that asset. How are we going to put it on the website, things of that nature. I don't think it's been posted or circulated on social yet. So anyone have any thoughts or comments on the solution brief? Did anybody here take a look at it? Has anybody leveraged it in any way yet? Yes, no?
No.
I have not yet.
So we've circulated it on the Oasis site, and I think I put it on the OCA Twitter account and the LinkedIn site. I'll check those days. I did get some feedback. I've been having great conversations. I mean, I'm really excited about the momentum we've got going. And I did have a couple people say that it was a great document, that it really helped them. So yeah, I mean, I think, that will be a really useful tool for me. And I have a marketing call this afternoon, and we're going to discuss as much, among other things. So thanks for all the hard work on that. I think it's great. I mean, there were some other aspects of some of the drafts that I would love to have seen incorporated, but, again, I think that it was, trying to keep it concise. So we'll see what we do with some of that other good content.
And like I said, Dee, to me, it's an evolving document, right? So we can always put out a Rev 2, and we should kind of plan on it, right? So as we get that feedback and get questions from prospects, make sure we capture all that so we can circulate it back through either this group or the marketing group for the next version. I see Duncan asking for a link here in the chat. Let me dig it up really quick. It's in my email. Don't have it here handy. But yeah, if you haven't seen that asset, haven't been able to leverage it yet, take a look at it. Circulate it on social, circulate it within your organization so that people understand what we're doing here, right? What you're doing here, if necessary, right? So I'm going to be taking an action to do a little bit more of that this week. So, any other thoughts, comments? And Duncan, I'm trying in the same time here to find the link to post in the chat. I'll post it in a sec.
I got it.
Dee just posted it.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Dee.
Again, it's helpful because, yes, it's probably in my email somewhere, but if just every time anyone mentions it, you throw the link in, then it's more likely everyone will look at it. So throw it in notes as well.
So, Dee, did you mention this has already been posted on the website by the marketing SD?
It's on the Oasis Twitter account, and I think I put on the OCA and LinkedIn. I'm pretty certain I need to circle back. You know, we just got a blog from TrueStart as well, which is really cool. They're a new member. So we got a lot going on. I'll circle back. It's been in the last couple of days. Mary Beth probably put it on the Oasis side.
Okay, yeah, I meant the Open Cybersecurity Alliance website. So we should probably, a good topic
Okay,
for
so
the
we're working on that. Yeah, we're working on that. You know that Jory has left our Oasis, and Mary Beth and I are trying to feverishly figure out how to get it on there. So I think anyway, I may need you. I may need you, Jason. Oh, it's already on there?
Yeah, it looks like Russ posted it, possibly, but maybe it should be highlighted and easier to find. You have to go look under news.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I do see it under news. So that's great.
Oh,
We
cool.
should have it under about or on the main page though. But yeah, that's great that it's there at least. Awesome.
Thank you, Russ. We had problems with permissions, which we've got to get sorted out. Anyway, we're on it.
So I know it's fresh out, so we don't want to follow Jason's advice and reissue it right away, but I do agree with his comment that should come out periodically because these things get stale. And partly it's just putting it out gets people to read it, even if it was out before. Reading it again doesn't hurt. So particularly, you know, RSA's in a few months. I don't know if we want to somehow get it in front of it, and that's probably too soon to reissue it. So mainly just re-put this link out or whatever. But we should every so often put it out. I did just, because I just came from another meeting, I did just do a quick scan of it, and there's a saying in the government people use, never let a good crisis go to waste. Because supply chain is so hot lately, I did just sort of search for supply chain and didn't find it anywhere. So the next issue of it, we might want to somehow tie it into how doing all this helps with supply chain, because, oh, by the way, it does. And that seems to be what everyone's hottest on at the moment. So just a thought.
That's a good thought. Yeah.
Yeah,
Be good to try to figure out how to, you know, one thing we might want to try to figure out how to do, Duncan, is figure out, you know, how do we link this with SBOM as well, and the work going on there. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Sorry, Mark, I think you were going to comment.
No, I totally agree with that. And I think, you know, ZTNA is another very hot topic, this whole SASE thing. You know, and I think the most important piece of that is, you know, user and device risk context that, you know, could be a area of focus that is closely aligned to things that are hot topics right now.
Yeah. All right. If there's no other comments on the solution brief, the next item on the agenda was basically a call for participation in some of the TSC and architecture groups. So Russ, I do see you did join. Did you want me to hand this one over to you? Did you want to spend a couple of seconds talking about that item, or did you want me to?
Yeah, I can if you want me to. I'll be happy to. So we're at the point now that we've got as you know, months ago we built this really nice high-level diagram to try and position in the standards groups or open groups that we thought were appropriate and related to OCA. Like IACD and SCAP and OpenC2 and that kind of stuff. But then we stopped working on it. We knew we had more work to do. And now we've been working in the architecture group, and we've got some nice, component level diagrams for a piece of the puzzle. But we're at that point now where the group really needs to start working on, creating and finishing out these products. And Mark and I have been talking about it. So what we're doing is asking everybody that is in the OCA for participating at least 1 hour a week and help us with some work items. And what we've done is, in the GitHub, we've posted on the issues database places where we need help. And we'll continue to evolve that, but we really would like to start getting folks to at least contribute to something along the lines of either of those efforts and the TSC that Mark's launching, so we can start getting some work moving forward. that's the intent.
Yeah, and so and thanks, Russ. I know you're mobile right now, so thanks for that. The and just to before the call started, we were chit chatting. I know right now, it never seems to end, to be frank, the past 12 months, but everybody, we recognize that everyone's extremely busy. The ask from my perspective is within your greater organization, right? My ask would be, we need to, as the PGB, look inside our organizations, try to identify places where the OCA mission aligns with our mission, and get a little bit more contribution from some of those areas. So that would be the ask, like, for folks to think about, are there other participants who could be brought in to help with the work? As one example, I have an action item I've taken. I'm going to be going and speaking with our incident response team to talk about, our vulnerability assessment team, to try to see if there's ways that they could help get involved in at least giving feedback onto the SCAP V2 reference project and some of the work at SCAP 2, because it has overlap with that organization. So things like that, like, are there ways that we can basically bring some more participation into some of the work, is what I'd ask. Just adding some more context to what Russ was saying. Any thoughts, comments there on basically, and again, it's all about trying to take some of the stuff that we've been working on for a year or so now and just getting it past the finish line. We're getting it closer to the finish line, because we've got a lot of good stuff that's kind of iterating, but we've got to try to figure out how to get some actionable work product out. A great example, in my opinion, is this solutions brief, right? Like, once we get something out, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we're already getting that positive feedback. It's already showing use. So, Duncan, I see you got your hand raised, or is that a mistake? Now it has a long.
No, there I am. Sorry, I had my mute. One is just my usual process pain in the ass self, that if you ever mention something link that people should go ahead and put the link in the notes. I realize Russ is mobile right now, but if someone else could find the link he just referred to that you want everybody to do, throw it in here. And oh, by the way, no one has the link handy. There's a clue. So again, just in general, if you refer to something, throw it in the chat window so everybody who's listening right now can just click on it and go look at it, because they might actually do something when they see something. And also make sure it's in the notes. So that's part of it. And then the second is, no, I do agree with Russ. We got to get stuff out. And I think it particularly ties to what Jason said also, on particularly the larger organizations involved. Try and get a little bit of help from other people elsewhere in your organization. I mean, I'm currently an organization of one, so I can't do that. But if I still had my old job, I'd reach back into various parts of AT&T, get everybody to help a little bit and say, hey, either agree or disagree, but either way, we need your input. And if you don't speak, then it might go the other way, and it doesn't work the way you. I'm better with red ink than black ink, but I do think we need more black ink, because you get stuff out there and people are go, oh no, that's not right, and then you get them to put the red ink on it and change it. But to the extent we can get more involved, I think we would be better off. But again, I concur with everyone else. There's just too much going on. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. One of the things I think I've talked to you, Jason, and Russ about is, I'm reaching back into my organization, but also I think trying to identify common customers, managed service providers that we have between us as members of OCA that we can go make this real for. I think that's an area where there's opportunity. Systems integrators and managed service providers, feel this pain, 1,000 times over any one customer. And And I think some of the other things, with moving the ontology forward and kind of redefining or just taking a step forward on the areas that we want to focus on, bringing some of those other pieces to fill some gaps. I think we're a short ways away from, building an architecture, but trying to do it with stick shifter, SCAP, and, quote unquote ontology. It's not all the pieces we need.
Any other thoughts, comments? And I see Forrest joined. Hi, Forrest.
Hi. I've got 5 minutes. Sorry.
Okay. I'm going to put you on mute, Forrest, because we're getting a little bit of feedback, but feel free to unmute yourself. Thanks. Cool.
He threw in that he only has 5 minutes. So basically, if anybody has anything they need Forrest for, they should do it now.
Yeah, and Forrest, I did see, your post that you're judging that summit today. That's amazing. And thanks for taking a couple of minutes to join the call here. That's great. Is there anything, Forrest, that you wanted to bring to the group, since you only got a short period of time? I don't know if you wanted to discuss anything around the IACD conversation you've had with Harley, or I did plan on, I was going to try to cover that myself, but if you had something you wanted to bring now, go for it. Forrest, are you there? You're muted.
He appears twice. Plus, if you're the host, he might not be able to unmute your mute.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think I just
don't
did
think
it.
that's the case. Oh, there he is.
I think I did it. Can you
Yeah,
hear me
we
now?
can hear you now.
Okay, yeah, the next round starting up here shortly, but I have not heard back from Harley, so I'll have to ping him to get some results, to get a response to figure out how we're going to go forward with that initiative. And I wanted to talk more about the ontology work, but I don't have time to talk about it now. Should be prepared to have a constructive discussion on that next month. That's my quick update.
There's a lot of things going on, so I might see if we can get together again in March, but we'll see. That's kind of tentative right now. So thanks a lot for jumping out for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back here.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
No, I was just saying thanks. I'm back out.
Okay, thanks. Okay, the next agenda item was D was going to give an update from Oasis on some discussions we've been having around borderless cyber and things of that nature and webinars. D, did you want to jump in?
Sure. So let me turn my microphone down. So we've been having some really good conversations. As I said earlier, I think we're kind of at a really interesting point. I've seen a lot more interest in the OCA. We've got the 2 new members. I've had some, I think a couple more companies will be joining in the next week or so. I've had some great conversations with, different kinds of companies recently. So I'm very encouraged, and I'm really excited. Russ and team have put a lot of work in the architecture work group. And I think as soon as we get something there, it gives me another thing to talk about. So it's been a while since we've had a webinar, and we've been brainstorming or a briefing, whatever we want to call it. And those have been great for us in the past. I think we've done 3, but again, it's been like 4 or 5 months, which is long enough. And I think we've got something to talk about, maybe not right this minute, but in the next month or so. So we were talking about maybe doing something different and not just doing what we've done the last 3 times and do okay, here are 3 building blocks, and we're going to talk a little bit of time about each. What we thought we might do is shift the focus and talk specifically about the problem, in the space and how this is the solution for the problem. So we were talking about inviting, you know, like a service provider, a consumer end user, one of your guys' customers or something, to a panel, maybe an analyst, maybe with another org, have a few folks from the PGB on the panel. But again, just sort of flipping it on its head and taking a really different approach and doing outreach to different kinds of folks to attend. And of course, anyone is invited to attend any of our webinars. So any input or feedback on that you have, I sent a whole list of potential MCs or analysts to, you know, Russ and Jason and Mark are in that group. If you're interested in participating in this, I know, again, everyone's spread so thin, but again, we wanted to do something different. We wanted to talk more about the big problem and that this is really a big idea. That I've been getting traction with that when I focused on that. And that's the feedback that Jason and I got when we spoke with the fellow from Google. He really liked, he said that the group had identified the right problem. And he was, you know, wanted to get more involved in terms of understanding the solution. But any sort of big picture, in terms of working it in with other things, I know that Jason's speaking at an event next month. So hopefully we would have something organized to, is it next month, Jason, or is it just a couple weeks?
It's in a couple of weeks, but it's already been recorded. So unfortunately, I can't say. But, yeah, I mean, the way these things work nowadays, you record them in advance.
Okay.
But,
all right.
you know,
Well,
I don't think that's going to be the last. I don't think that's going to be the last type of opportunity. So.
Okay. So what we're trying. Okay. So we thought about a half day or a full day thing. And that's where an alignment with some other cyber work within OASIS comes into play. Some groups that OCA has been, you know, speaking with informally to bring some of that work to come under the larger umbrella. Anyway, OpenC2 does these really cool things called Plugfest, and we're kind of just waiting. And Duncan's on the call, so thank goodness. I need to talk to you, Duncan, about coordinating something with that. And then, of course, I love this idea of supply chain, because that's really what one of the things that we're kind of talking about. In fact, I'm trying to nail down a call with Perimeter 81, someone from Perimeter 81, which is kind of right in that space. So that, and then the timing with CTI with STIX 2.1 is going to be more of the May timeframe. So we're getting close, but any feedback that anyone has on any of this gnarly ball of yarn that I just presented?
Yeah, I like at a high level, right? I think one of the ideas I've been trying to figure is, you know, so the STIX 2.1 standard is about to become an OASIS standard. And then we have some things going on OCA. And I know that the OpenC2 has another Plugfest coming up. And so there's a lot of these activities that are kind of in the same time frame that are all tied to OASIS, right? So I was trying, you know, instead of, what I was wondering is if instead of it just being an OCA webinar, if there was more of a event where a lot of these things were talked about at the same time, I think you could get a bigger audience for related participants. That's kind of what I was thinking, but open to other thoughts here from the group.
Well, this is Duncan. First, one thing Dee mentioned, you sent, well, first of all, to your direct question, I believe I'm set up to talk to you and Jane later today, because Jane asked for some time on my calendar. She didn't say for what, but I'm guessing since you just said that, like that might be what. And then the other, but my other comment, well, and then my other comment with respect to the Plugfest is I've also been sort of sitting back a little bit on the Plugfest for the exact reasons Jason just said of, hey, there's all this stuff going on. Isn't there some way we could sort of do it all together so we don't have 7 different things? We just have sort of one thing. And then the one thing everybody's can put the little bit of time everybody can put in, because everybody's too busy. If you're putting it in as part of a larger group to more, it adds up to more. Then, you know, 7 separate events aren't as good as one bigger event. And I just haven't figured out how to orchestrate that, but I like his idea of somehow figuring out how to do that, because I can't just do it all myself. But the well, yeah, so that's actually the main point, is how can we get all this stuff sort of working together and doing something that, with a little bit of help from everybody, we get something better for everybody. And I'm not personally sure how best to do that. I know I just don't have time to put it all together myself, and I'm guessing that's how everybody else feels, so none of us are doing anything.
Hey, JK, you're muted.
Thanks, Adam. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's exactly what we got to take back to marketing. Is you know, I think everybody wants to do it this way, whether or not that's under a borderless type of event. To me, that would be a great way to resurrect that, right?
I agree.
Like, we've got. I think between those three groups, you could easily fill like a day of sessions and activities without a problem. But you could build an agenda around that. I don't see why you couldn't.
And we can.
Between OCA and CTI and OpenC2, you've got like hundreds of companies there.
Right. So that's what we're talking about. So that's sort of the big thing. And then specifically the content for OCA, which we can get into in the next couple weeks.
Right.
Dee, did you have a thought in mind on when, if we had this thing and we called it Borderless Cyber, were you going to try and do it before RSA or out in, October or something? What was in your head?
Oh, no, we're thinking much shorter time frame than that. Pretty much after CTI is and a lot of it comes down to what you're thinking in terms of a Plugfest. I've been watching Slack and I haven't seen anything. So yeah, we're just gonna have to coordinate, but no, not that far away. We need to,
Great.
Get some stuff out there for OCA now.
Then yeah, let's put it together and do it then. I'm all for it.
Okay.
How much time I can put into it, I don't know, but I'm all for it.
Okay. We'll get her done. Anybody else have any questions or thoughts? Feedback?
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Dee.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah, thanks for that. I just want to make sure we have time for the other topics. So the next topic, this one I think is probably pretty quick. We've got two topics led by Mark. The first one I think is not going to be a large debate. We want to we've had discussions around, and I think everyone we've talked to is aligned with this idea about renaming the OpenDXL Ontology Project to just be called the OCA Ontology Project. Remove OpenDXL from the equation. So we wanted to bring that up in this call. I'm going to have to go and consult the rules on if we need any kind of a specific quorum or ballot to rename a project. I don't think we do. So I think we can just do it via consensus. But Mark, did you want to jump into that topic for a second, or is that just?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think the rationale is that, and this is part of the next one as well, that, I think the ontology, if we leverage it correctly, is the definition of the interactions, the APIs, the formats and topics, and, all of that. It's the kind of governance of the open OCA architecture in my mind. And I don't think it should be tied to a specific transport or messaging protocol. We might use OpenDXL, and we have that as something we can continue to leverage. But I think it should be agnostic of that, and describe those interactions, whether they be via APIs or over an event streaming technology like Kafka or messaging, it doesn't matter. So that's kind of my thinking on it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's endorsed by Mark and McAfee, and I think it's a great idea as well. So, any other thoughts from the group or reasons we shouldn't go ahead? Obviously, the biggest thing against this is the disruption, and the fact that we've been marketing and talking about it as the OpenDXL ontology for a year and a half. So renaming it a little bit disruptive from that perspective, but I think long term it's probably the best possible thing to do, and it would reduce friction. I know I can tell you firsthand it could reduce friction in getting some other folks involved, right? Because binding things to specific technology stacks can turn people off, whether or not it's justified or not. So, Ladrina, I think did you have a comment there? Or?
Yeah, just a comment. I'm pro the change. I don't see any issue in doing it. My one thought is that if there's any other event, I know that the big event we were just discussing is going to be much later in the year. If there's any kind of one-off webinar, any kind of press release, anything else going on with the organization, that event, if it's coming up in the near term, might be a good time to time it, just to increase marketing and name recognition factor as something to consider.
Well, the Borderless Cyber thing we're discussing, I think we are intending to be pretty soon, so that could be it. And if not, RSA is not too far away either. So certainly by either of those, if not by whatever we do Borderless Cyber, certainly by RSA. I think we'd rather do it sooner than later. I mean, I'm all for it. I do agree there'll be a certain amount of disruption from the change, but I actually think the old name causes more disruption that I think will actually be smoother if we do it. So do it as soon as you can, in my mind.
So I think I generally agree with that. I think RSA would be good. That potentially could give us some time to further define the ontology, and then maybe we, give us time for internal review and, approval that we're all good with it, and then do that all together. Release a new ontology that's broader.
Because if we have the content, we can sort of use it as the excuse of, hey, now we're looking at this. This is a bigger deal. We're making this the OCA ontology.
Yeah, you can almost make hay out of it, right? Is what you're saying. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. Hey, this is Adam. I don't have any objection to the name change. We're probably going to continue leveraging OpenDXL anyway. The question I do have is, would we have any additional responsibility in terms of accommodating any bridging that needs to happen? So like if somebody tries to implement this in XMPP and then someone else does OpenDXL and then there's PX Grid, I think Cisco has that, right? Like, is there anything, do we have any concern on that kind of thing?
Again, if it's not in our architecture, it's not our problem. I mean, my main issue with the name is the confusion the name causes. So yes, like you said, we're still based on OpenDXL. It's just the ontology is something different. It's the broader thing, and it happens to work with other stuff, but it's sort of the other stuff's job to do that, would be my take. If they come and join and they want to participate and they make it a sub-project, then great. Yeah, we'd be part of it. We're not excluding others due to it. We're just not confusing others with it, is what I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like if say Cisco wanted to come in and contribute a PX Grid implementation of the ontology that worked with their suite or whatever, that's great. That's amazing, right? I don't see that as a problem per se. We're not signing up ourselves to go and do that work, right?
Yep, makes total sense. Thank you.
And D asked, do we want to make a big deal of the name change? I mean, I think that the consensus there was yes. There, if we do it right, then we can make a big deal of it in a positive way. So, yeah, I hadn't even thought about that side of it. To be honest, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I want to be careful, obviously, not to we're not disparaging OpenDXL, but we're acknowledging that, the point of OCA is there are many things. There is PX Grid, there is Kafka, there is, all of these other things. And we will, I think, at some point want to be the body that, the tools that we produce as OCA are those bridges to those other things. So at some point, I think that's definitely where we need to go. And that's part of like the reassertion of OCA mission in my mind is, that North Star that the ontology is the map to, and then, be able to better identify all the pieces that we need to collect and get members to contribute and build, to make it actually work.
Makes perfect sense. So like I said, I'll double check with the rules, but I think this can just be done via consensus, which means that I'll send out an email to the list saying that this was the decision on this call, and just call for objections. And assuming we don't have any serious objections, then we can try to figure out how to operationalize it and what the timing of that is, and there's about we have to go and update the website and project name and a bunch of other stuff, but we can figure that out. Okay, next topic was also from Mark's, and I think it's kind of connected actually to the last one, and it's kind of a broader thing around this idea of reasserting our mission. So, Mark, did you want to spend a couple minutes on that, or?
Yeah, I think I've kind of veered off into that a little bit, but as we're, it's just been my observation as I've gotten back and more involved that, we have pieces of the puzzle, and trying to build something out of those pieces versus, looking at the bigger picture and, getting better organized, but with focus, and alignment. There's been a ton of great work going on in the architecture group with SCAP, and it's phenomenal. And I think we're just missing one or two other pieces that we need to, have the upfront vision well defined in order to pick those well, and find the other pieces that I'm sure, one of us as members in our organizations, we have these tools. We have SIM and SOAR and all of these technologies that can do something with, SCAP over OpenDXL, for example, or with Stick Shifter. And I think, what I'm missing is just more upfront design and trying to identify the pieces that we're missing so that we can go make this real with the customer, and kind of the targets that we've talked about. And I think it'll help define the ontology. It'll help be the roadmap for our solution briefs and all of that. So just kind of proposing that maybe in the TSC, in the different groups, that as we define the ontology, that we kind of further define our mission and objectives and output that we want to drive towards in the OCA. Those bridges and widgets and apps and things, and then bring that back to the PGB.
So I have a question. I think, we're using the term mission. I at least have always interpreted our mission is quite broad. It's just the tactics or the details or the projects we're doing may not be as broad as the mission is. So are we talking about changing the mission, or are we talking about, hey, we need some other stuff to fulfill this mission? I think it's more the latter, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay, because I think that's also an easier, I guess, sell, I'll say. It's, we got this big problem. We started down our path. We're walking. We've got the first pieces. we need some more pieces because we want to run and to meet this overall mission. And that's, again, I think that's just I think we need to do that.
Yeah, I think the best way I could put it, I guess, is I think what Mark's calling out is we need to spend some cycles on some upfront design thinking and planning, right? Around, and correct me if I'm interpreting things wrong, Mark, but basically, what our high level architecture, what we're trying to achieve, what does that look like? How do we get that piece over the finish line so that we can do more of the deep dive? And we have been doing some of that work in the architecture group. And I think the ask is even higher level, like that we're a little bit too in the weeds. We haven't taken the mission that we have and created a vision. We haven't created an end vision for the mission. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the architecture work does need to, I'll say, finish its work on, hey, how do the pieces we have fit together? Because I do think you do have to finish the crawling before you walk even. But I do think we really should be doing it the way you said, which is, but what's the whole thing look like, and where are we missing the holes? And yeah, we have projects that do A, B, and C, but if you look at this big picture, we need a D, E, and F. But we need the big picture that has A through F in it. I agree fully. But I do think the architecture work is at least a place where that has to occur. It may have to occur in more than one place, but at least has to, the architecture work has to sort of finish, I'll call it the, hey, how do our projects fit together view? But they also have to then do and how do we solve the cybersecurity problem view, and the entire problem, not just the problem sort of focused on the piece parts we already have.
Yeah, I think my concern is the pieces we have don't necessarily fit together. It might be A, C, and F are the pieces that we have, and having that upfront design. I think defining some, I guess it's fundamental distributed systems architecture that without upfront design, Agile breaks down and will never fulfill, that distributed architecture. And I think some of that would be good.
I could argue some of that with you, but the proof's in the pudding. We need to let's get some input into the architecture committee on what we're talking about and get it on paper, and I'm sure we can make it work.
Sure.
So what's the action here, I guess? A little fuzzy.
Sorry, this is Adam. I just have a quick thing. So Russ, we've been working on a landscape diagram in the architecture group. Is that something that we think would be at a high enough level? Because we've been trying to take this, what's called a landscape diagram anyway, and run through the different use cases that have been put together.
Yep.
That kind of try to span all the different, I guess, subdomains that we're concerned with at this point. Maybe at the March meeting, if we have another one this March, right, Jason? You mentioned that you were going to try to schedule another one. We could go over that and see if that's something that would be useful to help with this effort, because I like this idea.
Well, I think you need to get it out before the meeting, and we can have some, emails and offline, everything else discussion. So at the meeting we could, because again, we only have an hour at this meeting.
Sure.
A lot of stuff, but I do think that would be good. But I don't know, because we've never done it before, if the C4 landscape concept can meet the concept that was brought up. But I do think we have to expand the use cases to meet. So if we're going to if we're going to meet the mission that's on our mission link and cover the landscape that I think is being proposed to cover, the sort of 2 or 3 use cases that we have, which all said and done are pretty focused around the projects we have. They're focused to highlight the value of the projects we already have. And the point is, our bigger picture we're trying to solve is more than that. I think we're going to need some more use case work as well.
Yeah, and this is Russ. And Adam, you're right. I think that, system landscape diagram is that intention. And if you guys remember months ago, and I just posted the link, We took a swag at the high level architecture, and I think Jason, you did a lot of this work, focusing on the IACD, the SACM, the OCA. If you remember that picture we drew, and I put the link in the chat, that's all we have at this point. And I think, again, we could use this to massage it or embellish it or start pointing out where we're missing things, back to Mark's point, which I agree we're missing stuff. But this is where we left off on it. And the landscaping diagram was supposed to take this and replace it with a C-Force diagram so it consistently fits into the architecture work we do. Because that architecture work, does the nice little layers of different ways of looking at the architecture, which we wanted, right? We want a high level view that you can click into the lower level views and so forth. We wanted Duncan's favorite picture with the network equipment in it, which is a different landscape diagram that's also defined in the C4 diagramming. So, that gave us the pivots that we needed to give different viewpoints of the overall architecture. So I think you're right, Admin. We're trying to do that, taking the last diagram we had, which we knew was incomplete, and building a landscape around it, and again, trying to finish it out.
So it sounds like the action is, we were already kind of running with it in a way, and it's really just a double down, more focus on the higher level points in the architecture group and getting more feedback into what's happening there. Is that accurate? Or I'm just trying to.
I think and add it to the fact that the PGB is blessing the architecture group to go beyond the projects we have.
Right. Yeah, I'm just trying to turn this into make this actionable. So, okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, because I do think the work that Adam and Russ and team have been doing is fantastic. I think it's just, a layer above that. We could call it the broader ontology. If we clean that up, I think we can move faster.
Yeah, I agree. I think as we talked about the ontology being such the hub of all this, I think we didn't capture that as well, I think, as we should have in this diagram. Just hadn't got to it. And I think that would help us be clearer on, how it fits in and how these things can work together. I still think we're going to be, as you said also, Mark, we're missing key components, if you will, of the OCA architecture, which we need to identify versus just the three we have now, which is kind of where we built this picture, right? I think there's missing pieces also.
Yeah, I mean, one action item could be for everyone to sort of look at, hey, what's involved in cybersecurity in your organization? What are all the piece parts? What are the different stovepipes? What's all the technology? Does it fit in here somehow? May not be the right answer. I use, HTTPS instead of OpenXL or whatever. But at least conceptually, yeah, I got a bus. I needed that. I have, I got control points of type X. Are they in this picture anyway? Oh, no, they aren't. There's a hole. I think that's the bigger point. We want to basically automate everything to everybody, doing it our way, eventually evolving to our way of doing that.
So that's great. I couldn't agree more. We've only got 1 minute left. So I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. I don't think we're going to get to the last agenda item, but Forrest already kind of gave brief update that we haven't heard back from Harley beyond the email. There was an email sent to the PGB list. So if you're looking for a little bit more detail on what we're doing, what we're trying to explore with IACD, I'd encourage, check your inbox, search for IACD on the PGB list, and you'll see some of those updates from Forrest to the list, what the status is, why we're talking about this, and what we're trying to achieve. So with that, we can probably adjourn. Anyone have any last minute comments or thoughts they want to share? Okay. Like I said, I'm going to try, I think, I'm going to try to schedule another session sometime in March. Maybe we should call it more of a working session than a PGB meeting, to try to move the needle on a couple of these things, what we were just talking about. So look for that. Look for some messages from that from me over the next couple of weeks. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time. Great meeting. Great discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, everybody.